and welcome back to another episode of Book and Lunch Date. We are celebrating our spooky book festival, so if you have a chance, if you have not done so yet, please go online to Tulare County Library and check out our book festival. And today we will be making a very classic Chinese American dish, beef broccoli. And I'm actually going to take my witch hat off because it's bugging me. And it's not really sanitized when you're cleaning, no, when you're cooking. Alright. So, today we'll be making beef broccoli. Beef broccoli is actually a very Chinese American dish. It's not a Chinese dish, mainly because there's no such thing as beef broccoli in Chinese dishes. It's after Chinese American immigrated to America, and then they opened restaurants and all that stuff, and they're using local source ingredients. Then they combine these two ingredients together, which become a classic dish. So in Asia, it's really rare if you go into a restaurant and ask for, hey, I want beef broccoli. A lot of time they won't have it. Or they'll be like, okay, I can make it for you, but you might find it a little bit different from the American style. Alright, so the meat I'm using today is actually a steak. I really like to use a steak and then cut it up because it's just a lot more tender and I like the flavor a lot more. But you don't have to use the steak. You can use other cuts if you prefer, because we're going to do the same thing to them. We are going to slice them. But first I'm going to cut off the fatty part from the steak. We're not going to eat that. And again, I usually just save this part and just trim the itty bitty beef part for my cat. Yes, your animal can eat human food. You cannot add any seasoning to them. They can only eat pure food. And then what we're going to do, we're going to slice them. Slicing is a very common technique in Asian cuisine. Basically, we want to make it very thin so it cooks really fast. Now, some Asian markets, you might be able to find slice that's already cut for either barbecuing or for cooking or for hot pot. But a lot of time you cannot find them, and when that happens, you can always cut them yourself. So basically, I like to cut it at an angle, and remember, we want to cut it at we don't want to cut it alongside with the pattern of the meat. We want to cut it horizontally. So I'm just going to slide this through. And it's okay if it's not super thin, because today we're making beef broccoli. It's not supposed to be super thin. If I'm making let's say hot pot, let's say I'm having a hot pot dinner or something like that, then I will want to make it super thin, because that's a hot pot is it's something I will never be able to show you guys on the on Cook a Lunch Day, because it's a really long. It's not really long. It's actually fairly easy to make, but it's like you eat while you cook. It's kind of like basically there's a pot of hot soup and it will be boiling in the middle of the table, and people have raw food around them, and then we just put food in and cook them and eat them as we go. So it's a really fun family activity. And a lot of time we'll put in like really thin slice of meat in there, which is one of the main dish. Also my favorite, my husband's favorite. Alright, so let's continue cutting. If you're having trouble slicing your meat, another trick you can do is to freeze your meat. Now you do want to defrost them a little bit, or you don't want to freeze them for like a whole day. You can do like maybe an hour or an hour and a half, and then remove it from the freezer. That will allow the meat to be very not like super hard like a rock, but it's still cuttable. But it will give you a lot more a lot more. It'll be easier for you to cut because it's not squishy. It's like it's cutting a slime versus cutting like a tofu, right? So tofu is gonna be easier to cut because it has structure. Alright, we're almost done here. And you also want to make sure you have a very nice and sharp knife. That's always going to help when you are cooking. And the last one, I'm going to butterfly it so it's nice and thin. And I'm going to put it right here so I can season it. I'm going to put this away. I'll wash my hand. I'll be right back. Alright, our seasoning today is going to be very similar to everything that we've done before, which is soy sauce, always with soy sauce. A little bit of rice wine. If you like spicy, you can add in paprika or other pepper, but I'm only using black pepper. That's going to be a very nice flavor. I'm also going to add in a little bit of oyster sauce. Again, you can get this at pretty much any restaurant, any markets nowadays. I'm using the Panda brand. Panda. And then just a little bit of sugar. And then this is important. So what I'm going to do, I am also going to use my cornstarch or any other starch that you would prefer to use, and oil. This is important. You don't want to add this in until you mix this already. The reason is these items here are liquid. Liquid doesn't mix with oil. So if you add on to oil, this is going to be, they won't combine as well, right? Because liquid and oil doesn't mix. So I'm going to allow my meat to absorb and take in all that flavor and then adding those two in. Because it won't make sense, right? I want them to be able to eat it in. With the oil, it's going to be difficult for it to do so. So see, I added a lot of liquid, but it's all gone. Now again, in the normal setting, I will set it for another 10-15 minutes before I cook it, like I would do other dishes. Or so meat a lot of times is something I do first when I come home. So I just want to allow it to have a longer time. Alright. There you go, you have your massage. I'm going to add in my oil. Going to add in, not my oil, sorry, my starch. Oh no! Accident in the kitchen! Alright, so a little bit of starch. I'll clean it up already. It's hard to work with one hand. Alright. So now, before I add in my oil, I want to mix in my starch nice and even. But as you can see, it's gonna be a little bit hard because it's gonna be a little bit sticky as you mix it in. Just have to use your hand. The easiest way is to use your hand in this setting. You can always wash your hand afterward. And just make sure you also wash your hand before that. Alright. And then you add in your oil. This is going to prevent my meat from sticking to each other as well as sticking to the pot, the pan that you will be using. Alright, so now my meat is nice and coated with oil, underneath is cornstarch, and all the flavor is within it. So when I'm cooking it, it has 2 layers of protection, preventing the flavor and the juice from the meat from getting out, getting loose. It's my cornstarch and my oil. Now I'm gonna set it aside while working on my veggies, and then clean up as well. Here's my towel. Let me clean up really fast. Nice. Okay. And back to chopping. Alright, so today our ingredient, of course, we have broccoli. And then also have some mushrooms here. But first I do want to get rid of my garlic. So for garlic, what I'm just going to do is just going to peel it. I only have 2 cloves here, 2 little ones. Just run it through your knife, nothing fancy. Sit right there. Alright, and now we have our broccoli. So you have a head of broccoli like this, and then just, cut each head out. Like so. I'm not going to use that one. It has pretty. So if you cut the ingredients smaller, it's gonna cook a lot faster. The reason why in restaurants outside, when you go eat, they are able to have a lot is because, first of all, their stove is a lot better, and then second of all, a lot of time they actually run it through oil, like they deep fry it like really fast. Not deep frying, but just go through water or oil to cook the ingredients beforehand, so that way they can when they're cooking, it's so fast, right? But at home we're not going to do that because that's just kind of redundant. That I'm not going to bring on other pot just to cook my broccoli. So this is a very home way of doing it. Broccoli, and a lot of time we buy these broccoli it will come with stem like this. Don't throw these away, they have goodies inside too. So you want to cut off the end and then just kind of chop down the edge of it. You want to be careful. Don't chop your finger. If you don't feel comfortable doing it, you can always use the slicer or something else. You just want to get to the center part of the broccoli stem. It is edible. It's just like this part, but tougher. The good side is hiding inside of it, so you just want to cut it out. To like almost like a green, like a lighter green, and it will shrink a lot in size. Okay. Yeah, but usually when you're eating outside in a restaurant, they won't give you this part. My parents used to work at a Chinese restaurant before, and they will always save this, and then they will pickle it. And that's something that's like extra dish that the staff can bring home. And stuff like this, I always wonder who's the first person, like, just like, oh, I think I can eat something from that. You think so? Like, how do you know this is edible? How do you know within the stem of broccoli there's something else that you can use? Okay, let's toss this. I also need to come back and cut my mushroom. Alright, now the mushroom. Mushroom is just really simple, just run your knife through. It will shrink, so you don't want to cut it in such big piece. And usually in restaurants, they probably wouldn't add mushroom. It's just broccoli. But it's my house, it's my kitchen. I can add whatever I want to my beef and broccoli. Right? So in another way, if you want to add other ingredients to your beef and broccoli, go ahead. It's okay. Add it. Just remember to make sure it's all is fully cooked. Alright. Now we can cook. Got my stove over here. Everything I need are here. So now I want to make sure my pan is super duper super hot. Kind of like when you're cooking steak. Because when you're cooking a steak, you want to seal, the juice, right? So you want to make sure your pan is super hot. In restaurants, what they will do is they will actually deep fry or just run it through the oil really quickly for their meat. But at home, I'm not going to have like a deep fry machine or anything like that, or waste a lot of oil just so I can make one dish. So this is what I would do at home when I don't have the means to do so. Okay, but you do want to make sure your pan is super hot, and including your oil. Now I have a little bit of water in my pan, so that's why I'm not adding in my oil immediately. I don't want it to have a little firework here. Water work here. Alright, now it's dry. I'm adding my oil. You can add in a little bit more, it's going to be fine. Your ingredients pretty much going to eat up all of it. A way to check whether or not your oil is hot enough for cooking, or the temperature, is to have a wood. Don't use metal, wood chopsticks, and just put it in. It doesn't make a big bubble, so that's like a lot of bubbles, so that means it's not hot enough for us yet. I want to make sure it's super hot. I want to make sure my meat, when it goes into the pan, it's going to seal in all the juice immediately. It's not going to take time and cook. That's not what we are going for right here. But I mean, my stove is actually really fast, so it should be nice. Not yet. Alright, it should be fine now. I want to make sure it's nice and hot. And remember, our beef has a coat of oil around it. Remember when we marinate it? So that's going to help when we put it in. It's not going to stick to the pan as much. So you do want to make sure that the order is correct. Very good. It's like, if you can see it, it's smoking. So if you are scared, you can back off a little bit because it will splash. Keep this. Don't want to move it around. And remember, our meat is really sliced, so it will cook through really fast. So we're gonna flip through both sides of the meat, and then we're gonna turn off the flame. We're actually going to remove the beef from the pot. And you're like, oh, why? And I will explain it to you in a little bit. Okay, the reason is beef and my veggies cook at different rates, right? If I cook them at the same time, my veggie is going to be undone and my meat is going to be overcooked. So now what I'm going to do, I'm waiting for the temperature of the pot to cool down a little bit and adding my garlic. Because I don't want my garlic to burn, so that's why I didn't add it in immediately. I wanted to cool down a little bit. Garlic burns really easily. So you do want to give it a little time to rest. And I'm not adding in any other oil at this point because it's greasy enough. So I'm just going to add it. So now it depends on your ingredients and how long and how many ingredients you have. The mushroom is going to cook a lot faster than my broccoli. Broccoli takes a little bit, especially like the center part, so I'm going to add those in first. So basically you can figure out your own order. If you're only doing broccoli, then you can put everything in at once. So basically the ingredient that's going to take the longer time to cook, you want to put it in first. And our meat here, they are still cooking because it's super hot. Oil is super duper hot, right? So it's coating it. So it's going to be, beef also doesn't take a long time to cook. And I slice them so thin that the outside heat is still going to move inward. So that way my meat here is still kind of cooking. I'm going to put it back in after my veggies are done cooking. So don't worry about, you're going to have undone meat. Unless you have chicken or pork, I will cook it a little bit longer just because they have to be completely cooked. Now I'm going to add in a little bit of rice wine. Just when it evaporates, it's going to help my broccoli cook as well. And it's also going to help my broccoli eat in some of the flavors later on. But at the same time, I'm also going to add in some water. Water. And the soy sauce. Basically, everything you use to marinate your meat, you want to add in a little bit now. If you want spicy, you can also add in like pepper or like fresh pepper, like pepper flakes and stuff like that. Use a tad of sugar. Some restaurants will actually add in cornstarch as well, but it's completely up to you if you want to do so. Once you add in your meat, a lot of time it's sticky enough. So broccoli does take a little bit of time to cook, so that's why we are going to. But do not put a lid on when you're cooking broccoli. Some vegetables, especially the green vegetables, if you put a lid on when they're cooking, you're going to make them yellow, and they're not going to be pretty. So you want to make sure you just have to let them cook, let them do their thing. And cutting your veggie a little bit smaller is also going to help with the cooking time. I mean, you have a big head of broccoli, it's going to take a little bit to cook. Now we can add in our mushroom because they need some time to cook too. And the mushroom will also provide a little bit more liquid from themselves because broccoli doesn't release liquid, but mushrooms do. right? So when they're cooking, they are also going to add in liquid. So that's another tip when you're cooking, is to remember like where is the liquid coming from, because not just the liquid you're adding in will produce liquid or moisture, the food as well. But liquid from mushroom, that's the best. That's so yummy. That's going to like give your dish another layer of flavor. And this dish is so easy to make, which is why I'm like, okay, that makes sense why they always have at like every Chinese restaurant ever. It's like, okay, that makes sense, right? Now I think both my broccoli is nice and bright green, really pretty color, and my mushroom has shrunk, so I think they are ready. And now this is the time that I'm going to add in my meat. And my meat also have some juice, so it's going to make everything nice. So now you just want to make sure everything, the flavor combines. And the reason why you want to use similar like soy sauce, like the same thing that you're adding to your meat, is because then your veggie and your meat is going to have very similar flavor. So when you combine them together, they are like cousins, right? They're like, I know you. So when you're eating them, you're not eating like broccoli, like, okay, this is a piece of broccoli. Okay, this is a piece of meat. They have a very similar flavor. And you don't have to cook them really long from now on, just because, you know, we cooked them already. They're pretty much done. I'm just waiting to let the juice soak in a little bit, and to make sure my meat is completely cooked. We are almost done. And remember, don't put the lid on it whatsoever. The lid is going to make your veggie look horrible. Unless that's what you're going for. I'm sure no one's going for that look. Alrighty, we are done. So this is my broccoli and beef and mushroom. So, ta-da! Now it's tasting time, my favorite time of the cooking show. Oh, but it's super hot though. I burned myself. It's really good. It's nice and tender, the meat, and then it's baked. But you can really still taste like the moisture from the mushroom. So it gives you a little bit of earthy feeling on top of the meat. So it's really, really delicious. Give it a try and let me know how you feel. At the same time, please don't forget that we are doing the book festival right now online. Everything is virtual. It's going to be really safe for you and your family. If not, check out our Facebook. I did post some event from the Spooky Book Festival, like story time and all that good stuff. Okay, and last thing, we are open, all branches are open for lobby service. So if you miss us, you can always come in and ask us questions, apply for library cards, and all that good stuff. Okay, so check out the library website and let me know if you have any questions. Bye guys, I'll see you guys next week.